I always started off thinking that I was going to make a ton of money online. That's basically what I thought. And I started off kind of making my own websites when I was 16. I had like a voucher code affiliate site, and I just thought, that's it. This is it. I'm going to make tons of money now.
How do you approach a digital PR campaign, and how does a typical campaign look, I suppose?
The links that you built before had a minimal impact, but now that tech SEO has been fixed, the website can now experience the full benefit of those links that you've been building.
How did you find that experience? Because
Exactly.
I don't even think many PRs do that. Welcome to Embracing Marketing Mistakes, the podcast that helps you smash your revenue targets by learning from the unfortunate mistakes of the world's best marketers. I'm your host, Chris Norton, and today I'm thrilled to introduce Mark Rofe, a man who has worn many hats in his career, from viral Billboard heartthrob, trust me, that's an interesting story, to Christmas tree entrepreneur. Mark captured global attention for his Dating Mark campaign, which saw his face on a billboard in search for love. Today, he's the founder of entitled Digital PR Newsletter and the Digital PR Course, where he helps aspiring PR professionals excel in their careers. He's also the proud owner of christmastrees.co.uk, proving that creativity and adaptability are often at the heart of success, and we talk a lot about that. So in this week's episode, we'll dive into Mark's unique career journey, the mistakes he's learned from along the way, and there's a lot of them, and his best advice for those looking to stand out in the world of digital PR. We also examine how he turned challenges into opportunities, and we discuss a ton of PR tips which are useful for any aspiring marketing team. So, as always, sit back, relax, and let's hear how you can use digital PR hacks to grow your brand in 2025. Enjoy! Mark Rofe, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm great. I'm really happy to be here.
So you're over in Barcelona then. I mean, the digital PR world's obviously doing well over in Barcelona. How have you ended up in Barcelona from the UK then? Do you want to explain what you're doing over there?
Oh, well, I guess I'll just be honest with you. I think I just wanted to change, and I kind of had enough of the UK a little bit. So I lived in Dubai before as well. That wasn't quite for me. Barcelona is a little bit closer, and it is a little bit more me. I really like it here. But yeah, miss the UK sometimes. You're always going to miss where you're from as well. So nowhere is perfect, but overall, yeah, I like it here.
So we've been looking at your kind of your work history, and particularly your Twitter profile, and the way you describe yourself is pretty funny. And you've done everything. You describe yourself as a wannabe Billboard pinup. You're involved in Christmas trees, and you're a digital PR specialist. So do you want to kind of give us a little bit of a synopsis of your career history, and I suppose how you see yourself professionally?
I mean, I think that's a tough one. I think I always started off thinking that I was going to make a ton of money online. That's basically what I thought. And I started off kind of making my own websites when I was 16. I had like a voucher code affiliate site, and I just thought, that's it. This is it. I'm going to make tons of money now. And I soon found out no one was visiting it. No one was finding it. And then that just took me down a world of going from, I guess, like making my own affiliate websites down to SEO, which then led to kind of the PR side of things. So that's kind of where I'm at now. But yeah, I've always kind of been experimenting with things, whether it is on my own projects, or within basically my work. And with that experimentation comes mistakes as well, which is obviously what I'm going to talk to you about today.
Yeah,
I mean, we're looking forward to hearing about them, definitely.
But before we get into the mistakes, your career, like Will said, is slightly different. So because the people we get on here, we obviously work in public relations. 90% of people we get on here aren't really in PR though. They're usually in some form of marketing, and your area of expertise is digital PR. And the bit I like about what you do, because I subscribe to your newsletter, I have done for ages, we've followed each other on social media for years, is that you're really, really practical with your tips. And like, you just said there in your introduction that you've missed the UK, but you've done a recent stunt, should I say, where you ended up flying all over the place, didn't you? Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so basically with my newsletter, I'm sending it out each week, and I'm always trying to give some kind of practical tips. I think sometimes the theory tips are kind of helpful as well, but really, I remember when I was starting out, I just want to know how people did stuff and just how stuff worked. So really, I'm just trying to create something that I wish was there, when I was kind of starting out. So yeah, recently I live in Barcelona, and I recently flew to Gatwick just to have a Nando's and then come back to Barcelona again. Um, I managed to do it I managed to do it in a day. I think my flights were really cheap, to be honest with you, like £40 or something like that there and back. But the purpose of that was to kind of explore how news agencies worked. So I worked with a company who I took lots of photos and videos when I did this journey, and I gave it to them. And I might not be correct in how I'm kind of going about how it works, but basically it seems like I give them the photos and the video and the story. I still own it, but they would then go and approach publications and sell that to them. I think like maybe they license it out or something along those lines.
Hmm.
But the whole reason I did it basically was just to have some content for my newsletter. So I just explained how it worked a little bit. I think it got featured. It got featured in a few places. It didn't go super viral or anything like that, but it was in
It was in
The
some national
Sun.
newspapers, though, wasn't it?
Yeah. The Sun. It was in LBC. A few of the regionals, off the top of my head, and basically, I made a little bit of money from that just by licensing it out. I can't say how much, but it was enough to basically make the money back that I'd paid on going to the UK and getting a Nando's and then coming back again, which I also appreciate is really, really bad for the environment as well. I did feel, to be honest with you, did feel guilty doing it, but then suddenly that went away a little bit when I saw that there were a few empty seats on the plane as well, because I felt like at least I didn't take someone else's space. And I did, and I don't know how good these things are, but I did try and offset the emissions with some carbon credits. I don't know how they managed to do that kind of thing, but yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell, really.
So, and you sold, so you sort of used a third part, like one of these news agencies then to sell your story. How did you find that experience? Because
exactly.
I don't even think many PRs do that, where unless you're a publicist and you've got a celebrity, you've got a killer story and you want to sell an interview, whether if you've got a real bit of insight on a celebrity. I'm not going to name any celebrities in case I get sued, but you know what I mean? Like they sell their stories, don't they? But often PR agencies don't really do that. So how did you go about it?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I just contacted a news agency. I said, hey, I'm doing this thing. Would that be of interest as a story? Would you be able to take it on as a story? Do you think that'd be of interest? Do you think it would kind of work? Now, they could have taken that on and then it got no coverage from it, in which case they wouldn't have made any money. I wouldn't have made any money from it. And that can kind of happen. But I think that's why I wanted to kind of talk about it, and that's why I wanted to include it within my newsletter, because I think it is something that not many people kind of know about or know how it works. I mean, from my point of view, I'm normally sending out stories to try and get coverage for clients, and I'm not charging anything for that. And it's just kind of eye-opening, I guess, that when I have situations where my stories don't covered and I'm giving it to them for free, and I think they're good enough to kind of get covered, and I'm just like, oh, but hang on, but over here you're paying for stories.
Strange.
That was kind of a bit like eye-opening that they're paying for stories when lots of them getting sent for free all the time as well.
Yeah, crazy.
So taking a little bit of a step back, Mark, obviously you specialize in digital PR or online PR, whatever you kind of call it. Now, that's very much a kind of a discipline and a term I think sort of emerged over the last 5-6 years. At risk of stating the obvious, do you want to explain exactly what digital PR is for our listeners compared with perhaps traditional PR that people will no doubt be familiar with?
Yeah, so the way that I tend to talk about it, and I just need to think for 1 second to make sure I explain it in the best way, is that digital PR takes the tactics of traditional PR and receives some of the benefits from PR as well as SEO. So it's kind of, you're getting PR benefits and SEO benefits. And I think it's mostly kind of SEO people or companies that would be doing digital PR. But I think that that's kind of changing a little bit now as well. I think that digital PR and PR were kind of more separate, kind of different aims, slightly different objectives. And I think they're kind of becoming more aligned now. But yeah, I think one of the other differences would be that the benefits from digital PR are more focused. So PR, they traditional PR differs in terms of the benefits and where it's kind of the mediums as well. Maybe you're doing podcasts and lots of different things, whereas digital PR is more about online coverage, getting coverage online and then trying to get a link back to the website. And not just getting a link back to the website, but maybe a certain section of the website to try and boost rankings in certain positions for wherever that website kind of maybe needs it.
And is there, again, you might not be able to answer this exactly right, but is there a kind of a formula for what makes the perfect online PR story? I think traditionally people think, you need some sort of on-site asset, whether that's a calculator or an infographic or whatever that the journalist naturally wants to link to, give them a reason to link rather than just saying, can I have a link? In your view, kind of how do you approach a digital PR campaign, and how does a typical campaign look, I suppose?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really depends on the story and the client and a few other things as well. I think the main thing that I'm looking for when I'm kind of thinking about it is, okay, I've got this story, similar, I guess, to the traditional PR. I've got this story. I think it's going to work. I'm going to put it out there. But my main aim is like, right, how do I make sure that the journalist does give a link back to my client's website? I guess that's maybe the main consideration. And it really pains me when I see some campaigns that have been done and they get a ton of coverage and there's just like no links whatsoever to the website. I think, sometimes it's not a very difficult thing to do. I think a couple of years back, Duolingo did a campaign where, the translation app, where they basically offered to translate your tattoo. If you've got a tattoo done in a different language, they offered to get that translated for you.
Brilliant.
And if it was incorrect, I think it was that they would then pay to correct it for you. I think it was something along those lines. Got tons of coverage, did really great from it.
Yeah.
And they actually had like an asset on their website. So like where they kind of spoke about the campaign a little bit and about what you needed to do. So there was an asset on the website, but much of the coverage you got just didn't get any links. And I was just like, oh no, just a little bit of a tweak maybe within the press release, being like, here's where you can apply or whatever, give the journalist a reason to link. That would have really helped them to see some of those SEO benefits as well.
Yeah, because it's a huge wasted opportunity. I mean, the amount of effort and time that goes into creating a concept and creating such a brilliant campaign, and then I suppose it's a huge wasted opportunity, isn't it, if they're failing to do that?
But that's it. I mean, there's obviously still did great. There's still benefits from that, maybe more like the traditional PR benefits, but just that little bit of extra that wouldn't have required much effort at all. It wouldn't have made any difference in terms of level of effort. Would have made a big difference potentially in terms of the SEO benefits. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, digital PR for me feels like there's so many clever things that you can do, but a lot of people, a lot of marketing people listening to this, there'll be people listening to this, marketing people that don't often see either the ROI, the return on investment in public relations, but all the ROI in digital PR. They'll go, oh, great. So we're in this space, Mark, just to give you a feel. We call ours like integrated PR. So we do traditional and digital because we've always done it that way, and we'll create the assets and things like that. But we don't just specifically focus on digital PR. We aim to get links wherever possible. But some clients, and you'll know this, well, maybe not, I don't know, because you're slightly different space, but some clients just don't really value links. Some clients are obsessed with links. Some clients don't really care. And I think it depends on the business function and who's hired you to do the PR campaign, why it's being done, like the Duolingo example you've just given. Do you find that some people just don't value your links? So then do you have to do another level of measurement to demonstrate the difference or the business impact that you've made?
Yeah, I think it's a tricky one. I think that there's some that I'm maybe working on the opposite end, where the link is the only thing that people care about, and sometimes you don't get a link, but there's still benefits in that. At the end of the day, you're building brand, like getting brand mentions. all we're really trying to do is give signals to Google's or whatever search engines about, our client that in the end hopefully results in kind of an uptick in SEO performance. I don't know. Yeah, every client is kind of different. It depends, I guess, maybe that a little bit on their background or where they see things. Some are very, oh, we need to get a link. Oh my God, that you didn't get a link, that's bad. Whereas some others are just like, great, you got coverage, I'm happy with that. They just know, and I'm probably stating the obvious here, but it's much easier to work with clients that just understand that maybe they can't see when you do something and the direct impact, but just know that it's all good and it's all helpful, and in the long term that it's only going to be good for the brand.
It's a bit weird as well with links and SEO because because obviously you've got with traditional public relations, you get the coverage, you go to the client, here's your coverage, here's the traffic or whatever. But with links and SEO, it's like, and you'll know this terminology because you'll have been in loads and loads of meetings like this. Well, we've got you an extra 50 links, and then you have to wait a while for the Google juice to pass through to the site for the difference to be made, isn't it? It used to say it was 6 to 8 weeks. I don't know what you say these days. How do you reference that to a client as an example of a return on investment, or do you not do that anymore?
I think it's very difficult, and I think that I am personally trying to move away from just volume of links, because look, you could do a piece and get coverage in, can get syndicated across loads of regionals in the UK, like the Reach PLC types, and maybe you do end up with like 50 links or something like that. And I'm not saying that's bad, that's useful to have, that's great. But equally, you could get one piece of coverage on the BBC, let's say you get a link as well. And if you're just doing it based on link volume, if you're essentially saying that those 50 syndications on those regionals did better than just that one piece of coverage with a link on the BBC, and that doesn't really make sense to me, because I would much rather have that that link on the BBC in just one placement rather than spread across maybe the 50 regionals or something like that. So yeah, I think things are kind of changing. I don't really know if that answers your question, by the way.
It's just the fact that what I meant by that is that our like I say, from Prohibition's side of things, integrated PR, we get the coverage and we get links. Your clients will hire you. I want this many links to whatever. The issue is then demonstrating the impact from that output, shall we say, which we've got a system that we use. But I just wondered, what did the world of digital PR, if they've got some sort of clever, sophisticated measurement of those 50 links appeared in January, for instance, and the net result of traffic increased by I don't know, the end of March. Is that fair? Is that how you do it or not?
I think it's one of those things that I personally haven't cracked, and I don't know if anyone in the industry has either, to be honest with you. But I think there are some things that you can maybe look at, and I think you have to take a long-term view over it. I don't think that you could do like one campaign and, let's say, get 50 links 1 month and then just wait to see the benefits from that. I think it needs to be like an ongoing long-term approach that needs to be happening consistently. I'm not saying necessarily get 50 pieces of coverage or links every month, but over a longer term period, let's see what's happening. Are things going up or are things going down? You can look at other things, maybe like brand search volume. Is brand search volume going up? If it is, that's great. That's helpful. But at the end of the day, especially when it's kind of Google, you're beholden to like an algorithm where things are constantly in flux and things are constantly changing. You could get a ton of links to a website, but if the content isn't up to scratch, if the technical SEO isn't up to scratch, those links that you've gained are going to have like,
minimal impact.
They're not going to be, they're not exactly. It's going to reach like a point where it's going to have this much impact. And then you'll get a tech SEO come along and fix the website, and you'll see rankings go like booming.
Yeah.
And what is happening there is just that the links that you built before had a minimal impact, but now that tech SEO has been fixed, the website can now experience the full benefit of those links that you've been building. That sometimes things like that can happen. in terms of measurement, I don't think anyone's cracked it fully. I think that there've been efforts to, and I think there'll continue to be efforts to do that, but it's just kind of looking at things over a long term.
Yeah.
And maybe maybe you can break it down a little bit. Like maybe if you tried to build links to like a certain page, if you keep hammering that page with relevant links, does that page go up? Maybe you could do some kind of things like that.
So getting a bit practical for a second, I mean, we'll move on from links in a moment. How do we, let's say we've got a great PR story, we're pitching it, what are the kind of the principles to getting a link from a journalist? And to break that down a bit more, do you ask for a link? Do you actually, when you're media pitching, do you say, can we have a link? Do you kind of lean, do you just hope that your website is sufficiently interesting that they will link? And also, do we need follow links as well, or no follow links?
Yeah.
Sorry, lots of questions there.
No, it's all good. I think that sometimes when I spoke to like a PR person, I think it was last summer, and I was talking a little bit about this, and they were just like, "Oh, I've never asked for a link." Like, kind of felt dirty to them to kind of do that. The way that I would approach it is, if I can, I want to give them an asset to link to, like just something that's on the page that maybe that they can kind of look at. Maybe it's a study that they can reference or something like that. Something that's on the website, because if you're giving the journalist a reason to link, that they're more likely to do it, right?
So something that adds value to whatever story something that
exactly
genuinely adds value.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the first thing that I'll try to do. Often I'll make sure that I've got a link. I've linked to that asset maybe a couple of times within a press release, at least like 2 or 3 times. Or maybe if I've got like a table in the press release, I'll say like, for the full data table, see here, and then they've got like a a link to the client website. Sometimes it's not always possible to have a linkable asset on the website, particularly if you're doing maybe like newsjacking or something like that. When I pitch those types of things, I will tend to have some copy right at the end of it, and it will say something along the lines of, it would be really helpful if you could include a link back to wherever I kind of wanted it to, often maybe the homepage of the website for the client or something like that. And my experience has been that when you do that, we're helping each other out, really. Journalists want that content. If we're able to give it to them, and and it's good quality, then they probably don't mind with kind of helping out with things like that. It's kind of reciprocation. But also, if you have kind of that copy at the bottom, so if I've got a linkable asset campaign, sorry to go back, I will say, if you use any of the photos or data or whatever it is from the story, a link back to, and then I have the linkable asset page would be appreciated. If I've got something like that, that then means that if I don't get the link, I can kind of just go back to the journalist and just say, hey, I did say at the end, if you're able to give a link, that would be, be really appreciated. And 9 times out of 10, they don't mind, and they're kind of happy to do it. I think the ones that don't, either they can't do it, or like some publications just flat out won't do it, or it just really depends on the person you get at the other end. Maybe they're having a bad day, maybe they don't feel like it, maybe they're really busy or whatever. But yeah, 9 times out of 10, they won't mind doing it. And also, I think it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, and like, these publications are paying for stories sometimes, like with that Barcelona to Gatwick Nando's trip, they're paying for that, and I'm literally just saying like, hey, have this for free, just please, like, if you wouldn't mind adding a link. So sometimes I think about it kind of like that. And back to your question on no follow links, to be honest with you, in the past, if I got a link and I saw it was no follow, I'd feel a bit deflated about it. I'd be like, oh, like, I did that and it was for nothing, kind of thing. Because just to explain, no follow links historically were not meant to pass kind of any SEO value. But over the years, that's changed, and I'm just going to paraphrase here. Google have basically said, I think this is the last maybe 5 years now, that they might basically ignore that it's no follow and let it kind of carry some weighting in the ranking. So for me, if I get a link now, I don't even check, to be honest with you. I'm just happy that whether it's follow or no follow, I'm just happy that I've got a link. But I think that's changing as well. I think that I'm just happy to even get coverage now. I think the way things are going and things, with AI, that it probably will be potentially just good enough to just get a mention.
Yeah.
Interesting, and that's fascinating actually to hear. Sort of inverted commas traditional PRs consider asking for links to be, a dirty word, and I think amongst some PRs that is the case because they don't really know how to even have that conversation. So that's great advice. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I think it just goes back to, if we look at the Duolingo one that I spoke about before, like, why would you not ask? Like, if I look at the potential downside, it's just no, and that's fine. But you got way more upside. There's literally, you lose nothing as long as you ask in the right way and you go about it in the right way.
Yeah. So let's go. You've supplied more mistakes and entertaining content in your questionnaire than like we usually ask for one or two, but you've supplied some belters here that people could learn from. So, do you want to tell us a bit about your C string story?
Oh gosh, so okay, so this is going back maybe 2011, 2012, and it was a lot easier to rank websites on Google back then. And when I was looking at some tools just to see what was getting searched, I was looking to create like a new affiliate website. And I saw that C strings were getting searched quite a bit. Now C string, when I looked it up, was like this underwear. And I'll let you go away and look it up if you want to look at it. It's kind of like a G string, but it's a bit different. It's just called a C string.
I'm not going to ask you why you were Googling C strings, Mark.
I can't remember, to be honest. I was just looking for any websites that I could maybe
just stumbled across it, yeah.
Website from. Yeah. So yeah, I registered a domain cstring.org.uk. Back then, if you had just like what's called an exact match domain, so cstring.co.uk or .org.uk, it made it very, very easy just to rank for that word. Like that doesn't work so well anymore, but back then it was just easy. Like you just hit the first page of Google, and yeah, so that's what I did. I hit the first page of Google for the word C string. I was getting all these visits to my website, and I thought that I'd make some affiliate commissions by selling all these or promoting all these C strings. I think I made like one sale. I was just puzzled by it for quite a while, but when I looked into it, it's because the word C string is also like a web developer term for something. So all these people that I thought were searching for this underwear called C strings actually weren't searching for that underwear at all. They're web developers searching for something probably code related to C strings. So that was my mistake. It wasn't a very costly mistake. It just mostly cost my time. But I think the lesson there was, it was a good lesson for me among like search intent within Google, like understanding, if you're searching for something, someone else is searching maybe the same thing, but you actually potentially have different intents for that search.
I wonder if that one sale was a web developer actually searching for a C-string pair of underpants.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I converted someone who didn't even want it. And then I think I remember I got like such a low commission for it as well. It was probably like £1, but I was just happy that, I made a sale. Great,
But you were expecting the ping, 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 all the sales to come flying in.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really know what I was doing back then either, but that's what this is all about. I think when you experiment like that, you learn from it, and next time, I'm not going to say you become good, but you get a little less worse, and then you learn the next time less, and then maybe you do become good or okay or whatever. Yeah.
And you've also shared something about England flags, which my producer will love because loves his football.
Yeah.
So obviously you went out and you bought 1,400 England flags with the bold intention of making a lot of money. Mark, you're going to make little Mark was thinking he was going to make millions from 1,400 England flags, right? Where did you store them, first of all?
Well, I'll tell you a bit of a background. I think that I knew that the World Cup was coming up, and I thought this is going to be great. I found some, I think it was on eBay, I found some bankrupt stock of like England car flags, and they were just ridiculously cheap. And I just, like, they cost pence, like per unit.
Oh, okay.
So my idea was, right, I think there's 1,400 of them, and I was like, right, I'll buy them because I know during the World Cup, I can probably just flog them and make like £1 each or something off each one. So my maths isn't very good, but I want to say I spent like a couple of £100, and I thought I could send that couple of £100 into like 1,400 relatively easily. That was my plan. So yeah, I bought them all, stored them in my mum's garage, and then when I went to measure them, they were just that little bit too big, so that you couldn't really post them because the postage costs were too expensive. It was something silly like it would cost like £3 to post. And I was like, this isn't going to work, for like a cheap flag. Whereas if it was like under a certain size, it was down to like 50p or something silly like that. So those flags, I didn't sell a single one. They all got stored in my mum's garage, all 1,400 of them. She just wasn't very happy. Fortunately for me at the time, she worked in a party shop from like my local town, and they sell like all kinds of weird and random stuff. And they just basically put them in the shop. I just gave them to the shop. And it wasn't until, so this happened like over 10 years ago, and it wasn't until maybe 2 years ago that they finally sold the last one. So they were there for so long. And in that World Cup that I initially tried to sell them in as well, I think England went out super early as well. It was just a total disaster. So I don't really know what the lesson is from that. Maybe just make sure you measure stuff before you post it.
The cost of postage. And you've learned, what I like about this is each mistake has got a lesson learned. And the next one is probably one of the ones that really intrigued me the most, which is you had a taxi website that you were doing some digital work for, didn't you?
Yeah. So basically, I decided to move. I thought Google didn't like affiliate websites, so I was like, right, let me do something where there is an affiliate website but doesn't look like one. So I had the idea. I saw someone else doing it first, actually, in Edinburgh. So I decided to do it for Manchester and Nottingham, where I got taxi domain names. So I had like Nottingham Taxi and .co.uk. I got my own phone number and I put it on that website, redirected that phone number to a local taxi company in Nottingham, and I ranked that website, and I was getting like a couple of thousand phone calls to that number each month. So my idea was to sell each phone call to that taxi company for maybe like 50p per phone call, I think it was. So for me, I was thinking that I could make, without much work, kind of like 500 or 1,000 or pound a month there, and it was going to be something that they would only pay for when they got a call, so it was going to work. It was going to work well for them. Mm-hmm. So that was my idea. I then tried to sell those calls to a taxi company in Nottingham, and I got some interest, and I was really excited that they wanted a meeting. Now, I live down south in the UK, so I drove all the way to Nottingham, which was like a 4-hour journey. I got there and I met them, and then they said, yeah, we can offer you £50 a month. And I was like, oh, man. So what I had in my mind was like, £500, like £1,000 a month, which, to be honest, is kind of like a side income would have been really, really helpful for me. To then it was just £50 a month. And I was like, I thought that they were taking the piss, to be honest, because this was before Uber. I think it probably cost me that much money to just redirect those phone calls to them each month. So it just wasn't worth it. So
plus the petrol of driving there and back.
Exactly. Like, so 4 hours one way. So it's probably like 8. I wasted a whole day. And I guess my learning from that was maybe that could have just been something that was discussed on a phone call, and maybe I could have done better at qualifying them, to be honest. But hey, these are all learning lessons, aren't they?
Great. All three, great. I mean, you've shared about 8. I couldn't go through them all on the show. I was like, we should have him on again. You shared that many, and they just made me laugh. I was laughing as I was reading them, and I was like, we need to cover some of them.
So great fuck ups, by the way. We love to hear them, and anyone else coming on the show, we like real, we like genuine stories. So that's great to hear. Back to your newsletter. So
it's great.
Give you a shout. We'll give you a chance to kind of plug where people can find you at the end of the show. But I suppose what we like about it, which Chris mentioned, is how practical it is. And you've recently done an edition that focuses on, I think it was lazy ways to get PR coverage, quick and lazy ways to get PR coverage. Do you want to talk us through a few of those? Because there'll be a lot of PRs listening. Sometimes there's pressure from a client. You desperately need to get some coverage for a brand. Talk us through some of your favorites.
Yeah, I think I'm just trying to remember that one. I think it was basically, there's a lot of general requests that just get put up on Twitter, and using the hashtag like journo request. And it was literally, if you use this tool called if this then that, then you can basically, every time a journalist uses that hashtag along maybe with your keyword, you'll get an alert. So it'll go straight to your email and then you can respond to it. So I set that up for my girlfriend so she's a relationship therapist. And she was like, "Hey, can you help me with PR?" And I was like, "Oh God, I've got to do that, have I?" And I was like, "Sure, like yeah, I can do that, no problem with you." And I just thought this was a really good way to do it for her. So I set up these alerts and using words like maybe like dating or relationship expert. So if those words came up alongside the hashtag journal request, she would get an email, and then she could just kind of take full control about which pitches she wanted to respond to or not. And so yeah, by herself with just me setting that up, she's able to get a few pieces of coverage and do quite well out of it. And yeah, I think that was a newsletter topic that worked quite well. I think because we all just want to do things the easy way, don't we? But I do think things are getting a little bit more difficult, I would say. I think there's more competition. I would say that we're probably a lot more people sending the same sort of stories to the same journalists, and there's fewer journalists. So yeah, it's becoming more difficult, I would say. So being lazy is maybe using a lazy strategy can be part of a strategy, but
working smarter
is
a more of a positive spin on it, isn't
that
it?
Sounds great. I should have said that. Yeah.
That's a smart way to work, I think.
Yeah.
What about something I'm quite interested in is TikTok as a kind of, I suppose, as a tool that PRs can use. Now, do you have a kind of a view on that? How you can, for example,
the trending feature.
So certain stories will trend on TikTok and then they can be repackaged for journalists. Is that something you ever use as a tactic?
I personally haven't, but I think it can work quite well, especially when we're living in a world full of kind of misinformation at the moment. So especially if people see something like maybe it is a hack or a tip that they see on TikTok that's been given by someone who's not a professional. So maybe when it comes to things like health or safety and things like that, a lot of people might watch it and kind of think that it's a good idea when maybe it can be dangerous. So I think things like that, this is why you shouldn't do this TikTok hack. Those types of stories can work quite well. So yeah, I've personally not done that, but I can see the appeal and I can see why they work.
Can I ask a question? Talking of trends, and we've talked about websites and things that you've. I mean, when Will opened, he said that you'd had multiple descriptions of what you've been doing, but the Christmas trees. So for those of you those of you listening, put in christmastrees.co.uk. Obviously, we've just been. Christmas was 4 or 5 weeks ago now, at the date of recording. How was Christmas? Trees.co.uk. How did it do, and how have you built that up? What do you do with it? Because I'm fascinated that somebody in digital PR has got a Christmas tree business on the side.
Yeah. So I guess I'll start off with the story behind that. I don't want to call it an addiction, but if I see a good domain name, sometimes I can't help but kind of go for it. And I saw that come up for sale in December 2019 on an auction website, and I thought, if that doesn't go for a lot, I'll grab that because I'd love to do something with that one day. So yeah, I bought it. We had the pandemic come along, and then in my mind I was thinking this might be the year that I do it, because I was thinking that maybe people won't be able to go out to buy their Christmas trees if we're still in some kind of lockdown. So that's when I launched the website. I haven't got like a Christmas tree farm or anything like that, but the way that it essentially works is that I've partnered with a company who then will do the fulfillment side of things for me. So my job is essentially to get the traffic, to get the sales, and they will handle the fulfillment of the trees. Basically, that's how it works in a nutshell. I think I just always wanted to do something like this as well. Like I remember as a kid going to get like a real Christmas tree, and I just thought that this looks like such a good way to make money. You just have a bit of land, have some trees, and you only have to work 1 month of the year or something. That's what I thought.
Absolutely.
The reality is after speaking to them now is very different. Those trees take years to grow. They need looking after throughout the year as well. And then it's also difficult to manage having all your sales kind of come in that 1 month rather than kind of spread out the year. And so I just thought that my way of getting into that just a little bit would be to kind of have this e-commerce website that kind of sells them. I think I've made things a little bit tricky for myself. I think it would have been way easier if I sold artificial trees. There's some challenges with selling like real Christmas trees. But it's good fun. I think.
Do you sell a lot of trees? Have you sold a lot? How far up page one are you? To give us a feel for what you're doing.
To be honest, I haven't looked. I don't rank for Christmas trees.
Oh, really?
And I probably won't ever rank for that. I think that's a bit of a head scratcher for a lot of people that work in SEO.
Yeah.
Because if you do Google Christmas trees, it's not really a specific enough keyword. So are you looking to buy a Christmas tree? Are you looking for photos of Christmas trees? It could be anything like that. If you're to buy a Christmas tree, those types of keywords quite often will return results for artificial trees, and I'm selling real ones. It's dominated by like the big kind of companies, maybe like B&Q and things like that.
Okay.
In terms of sales, it's very modest, to be honest with you. I think that if I maybe spent more time and effort on it, it could become something that's quite lucrative. But at the moment, I'm kind of content with how things are.
Right. Interested
okay.
in side. I mean, you are. That's what we should call you. This pod should be called Captain Side Hustle, because you're always looking for a side hustle, aren't you? I love the entrepreneurialism of it all.
Yeah.
I
so
think
you mentioned your girlfriend a minute ago, so I'm assuming the Billboard. Did you meet her through your Billboard campaign? Do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Yeah. So I have like a funny story about that. So yeah, back in 2020. So yeah, I put up a billboard to get a girlfriend.
You put a billboard up to get a girlfriend?
Oh yeah, well, to get a date. I put it up in Manchester. It went absolutely everywhere. Like you name it, it went there. It was like I was on This Morning with, at the time, Phil and Holly. It was on the Jimmy Fallon late night show in the US. It was on the Ellen show.
That's brilliant.
Honestly, it just went absolutely. It went insane, and like homepage of the BBC as well. I had. It sounds weird saying this, but I had like over 1,000 people like apply to date me from it. But yeah.
And what was your selection criteria?
Oh man, I had to pay someone to help me sort it out, because there were some guys that had applied, because I'd clearly not learnt from my qualifying of leads from earlier on, with the kind of the taxi website. And then I had like ages and things like that. So I had to pay someone to just basically go through my inbox and kind of put them into folders that I think I had a criteria of like between certain age and living in a certain, they had people apply from all over the world. Someone in Australia, probably things weren't going to work. So I had to put them into different.
Yeah, but a date in Sydney would have been worth it if they pay all expenses date.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But no, from it, I did get a girlfriend from it. Unfortunately, things didn't work out in that respect. I think I paid like £400 odd for the billboard for 2 weeks, and from media appearances, I made my money back. And then people thought I was good at PR. All I did was buy a billboard, so it all kind of worked out okay for me.
Mark, do you
know?
It's
a brilliant PR stunt, really, isn't it? I mean, it's so unusual, and it's that's how PR works, and that's how the media works.
Yeah.
It's always a billboard, though. That's what's weird. We've done a number of campaigns, and it's the billboard stuff that seems to get the PR coverage, and you're like, it's sort of weird because billboards are advertising. But they always end up being this. If you use them as part of the stunt, it's like a mechanism of the stunt, isn't it?
Yes,
Exactly.
the real serial being a good example of that, which we talked about.
The question is, did you get clients off the back of said stunt?
I was working at an agency at the time, and I was working at Rise at 7, and we did have a few inquiries off the back of it. But honestly, it was. Looking back now, it was kind of a terrifying experience because I didn't know what to expect. I mean, since then, I've seen 5, 6, maybe 7 other people go ahead and do it. But at the time, I hadn't seen anyone else kind of do that. I didn't know what the reaction was going to be like. I was living in Sheffield, but I didn't want to put it up in Sheffield in case things backfired. So I put it up in Manchester. I'm laying down in the photo and I'm wearing sunglasses so if things did backfire, I could hopefully
We're
remain
definitely
relatively kind of anonymous.
we're definitely going to put this
put-
on the video, mate.
Yeah, we
The
need a
video
picture of
version of
that
it.
billboard,
Yeah.
don't
That
we,
billboard's
in the show
popping
notes?
right up.
Yeah, I thought that I would just not just the billboard itself, but I had an accompanying website with it as well. I thought if I tried to make it so bad that it was almost good, the font is in Comic Sans and everything, and
some of those shots are brilliant though. You're kind of, I think in one, are you reclining on a sofa and it's sort of shot in soft focus?
I'm trying to remember.
It's a bit cheesy, isn't it?
Yeah, there's some. Yeah, it's purposely bad. I just thought and I just tried to make it funny. I think because I didn't want to come across as like a loser. So I thought if I came across as like, oh, he's a loser, but it's a bit funny, then I was kind of okay with that. So that was the approach I was going for. But my girlfriend actually, because I met her before I did the billboard, like we weren't dating or anything, but we started dating kind of like later on. And at the time she saw it, she didn't apply or anything like that. She hated it. She thought it was ridiculous. So yeah, it's kind of funny how things turn out.
The question is, where would she have appeared in the list of potential? Well, we won't put that in.
Number one, of course.
Yeah, of course, absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Any more questions, Will?
No, I think that's.
I mean,
that's pretty succinct, but I think that's really good. I think that's great.
Mark, I feel like we could interview you like 3 or 4 times. There's so much stuff to discuss with you. Yeah, thanks for coming on the show. If people want to get hold of you, or you've got a training course, and you've got a brilliant training course, and you've got a brilliant newsletter. Do you want to tell people how they can find those and how they can find you?
Yeah, so I'm not very original when it comes to naming things. So I've got a digital PR course. It's just digitalprcourse.com.
How long did it take you to come up with that?
Yeah, no. I've also got a digital PR newsletter as well, where I'm sending hopefully like an actionable tip like each week. Most people seem to like it, so I guess it must be okay.
Yep.
That's just at digitalprnewsletter.com. You can see a theme here, can't you?
Yeah. You should start an agency, and I'd love to know what that would be called.
The digitalpragency.com, wasn't it?
Exactly. I'm going to register that as soon as we finish with this to make sure that no one else can get hold of it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Thanks for coming on the show. Fascinating. Yeah, that was brilliant. I really enjoyed it.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I enjoyed being on the show as well.
Yeah, thanks.